Hey, this seems to be a little bit of a hot take, but hopefully it wasn't too clickbaity, but I do honestly think f5.6 is the best aperture to use for landscape photographers if you value sharpness in your images. Let me explain it all to you in today's video. Now, I'm Austin James Jackson, professional landscape photographer based in Southern Utah. Today we're out here in the Arizona desert shooting this fantastic scene. In the last couple months now, I've been using f5.6 for almost exclusively for landscapes. And I even released a podcast episode a few weeks back covering why I think f5.6 is the best for landscape photography. But I wanted to explain it in a video as well where I could show you some examples and kind of show you what I mean rather than just tell you my voice. But that podcast episode is well worth listening to if you haven't already heard it. Now let's start with the basics here for those of you that may not know a lot about aperture already. As landscape photographers, typically we're told to use somewhere between f8 and f11 for our landscapes, because this has a nice balance of getting everything in focus in your scene from front to back, and a nice balance of decent sharpness on the lens. For those of you guys that don't know, every lens has different sharpness values at different apertures. And generally speaking, those apertures closer to wide open are a lot sharper than those that are when it's stopped down. Now, the reason for this is called diffraction, which is where the light gets obstructed by the aperture blades as it comes through as the blades stop down. This is why you never really hear people recommend shooting at f22 for maximum depth, because the images are just so unsharp. But even at f8 to f11, while it does provide decent sharpness, it doesn't provide the best sharpness. On most lenses, the sharpest spot is usually 3 to 4 clicks off of that wide open aperture. For a lot of landscape photography lenses that are f2.8s, that's going to be somewhere around f5.6. Now, before we continue, I will mention that f8 to f11 is going to be your best bet if you are a single shot shooter. However, for most of you watching these videos on this channel, most of the landscape photographers I talk to, we do something called a focus stack, where we merge multiple images together to get that front to back focus. So like right now, you can see I have this cactus in my foreground. I have this rock that's a mile away from me here, this huge like rock mountain thing. And I will need, no matter what aperture I use, I'm not going to get it all in focus in one shot. So I'm going to have to do what's called a focus stack. Now, previously, I would just stop down to f11 for the focus stack, because even though I would have to do multiple images on a focus stack, I find that it's easier to blend those images when you have an aperture like f11, where you will get a little bit more depth in your image than shooting at, let's say, like f2.8, where there's just so much background blur that you'd have to have so many shots for your focus stack, overcomplicating things. But recently, I posted a video, and I'll link that here for you to check out. I checked out Helicon Focus. This isn't a sponsored video, by the way. I get nothing if you buy Helicon Focus. I guess I get a little kicker from my link, but they don't know I'm making this video. And Helicon does a great job of combining those focus stacks. So whereas previously I wouldn't shoot at one of these wide open apertures because it would be so much work, as long as I take the proper amount of images, I spit all the images into Helicon, and it spits me back a perfectly blended image where everything is tack sharp from front to back. It's so fast and easy to do. Honestly, I just think that it's fantastic. I know this is sounding like an ad for Helicon. Honestly, I was the biggest skeptic. I thought that the software was not good. I used to think it was horrible, and I tried it again and I was pretty surprised. So do check out that video if you want my honest review. But that brings me, now we put all the pieces together, why I think f5.6 is going to be the best for landscapes. Because we can have the sharpest image, and we can take extra images if we need. You know, I might shoot 4 or 5 in a focus stack here, combine those together, and now my image is essentially a perfect focus stack of f5.6 images rather than f8 to f11. So it's going to be just a little bit sharper. Now, does it matter on a high quality lens if you're posting on Instagram? Probably not. You're not going to be able to tell much of a difference. But for me, I want to make those large prints. I want my images absolutely as sharp as possible. And I'm shooting with a 60 megapixel camera. You know, anyone shooting between 40 and 60 and even further higher megapixels, you're going to find that the sharpness of your lens is going to be the limiting factor, not the megapixels on your camera. So I want to squeak out every bit of sharpness detail that I can in order to get the absolute best images in the field. So now you might be asking, how did I land on f5.6? Why not f4? Why not f2.8? Why not f14? Now, I've done a lot of testing with my lens and I found that f5.6 is the optimal sharpness. Now, if you guys want to find that sharpest spot on your lens, I dive into that deep in this video here, but I'll give you guys kind of the short and sweet version here so that you know how to do it for yourself. What you'll want to do is set up your camera on a tripod and you are going to take a bunch of different images. Now, what you're going to do is go just your base ISO, usually that's 80 or 100 on most cameras, and then open up your aperture all the way, f2.8, f1.4, f4, whatever the wide open is, and then adjust your shutter speed. Of course, make sure that you're shooting something that's not moving. So don't shoot like a flower that's blowing in the wind. Shoot something like, you can even do this at your house. I'm out in the field, so I do it on this cactus right here. And so for me, that would probably look like f2.8 at about 1/160th of a second. Now I would take that image right there. I'd make sure to set my focus point and then switch to manual focus so that the focus point doesn't adjust at all. So then after every image that I take, I'm going to stop the aperture down just one click, and then I'm gonna open up the shutter speed just a little bit slower. That is going to keep the exposure value of my images exactly the same, because what we wanna do is essentially go all the way through the lens from top to bottom so that we have every single aperture accounted for, and then we're gonna bring them into Lightroom later and compare the images to find exactly which aperture is the sharpest, and that is gonna be your 5.6 as I'm calling it, or the aperture that you're gonna use. And it is nice to know that on each of your lenses. Every time I post a video like this, I get tons of comments, people saying, just Google it. Why not just Google it? Why waste my time doing this? I'm always a big fan of doing it yourself, because oftentimes, how do you know that you can count on whoever did it on Google? And in addition, while someone with the same lens as me is probably gonna have roughly the same sharpness at each aperture, every lens is an individual build. They're each specifically made. So even though you and I might have the same exact lens, mine might be sharpest at f5.6, yours might be sharpest at 7.1, someone else's might be sharpest at f4. It's always worth testing it yourself for your individual lens and finding out where the sharpest aperture is, and then that is the aperture that you are going to use. Now, if you absolutely disagree with me and you hated watching this video, let me know down below in the comments. But if you do give it a try, let me know what you guys think, if you're finding that you're getting sharper images, because I know I certainly am, and I love getting those super tack sharp images. It is so satisfying, especially in an image like this. But yeah, that is my whole 2 cents on why I think f5.6 is the way to go for almost every landscape photographer, unless you're someone who's trying to get it all in one shot. But for the most part, we're doing focus stacks, so shoot at f5.6, get that really, really, really sharp image. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If it was helpful for you, or if you're interested in improving your photography, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Posting weekly videos to help you guys improve your photography, post-processing in the field, all that. I respond to all the comments, so let me know if you have any questions. I will get back to you and try and help you guys out. Otherwise, I'm so grateful as always for you guys for checking out this video. This is Austin James Jackson. We'll see you guys next time.